So I will say it again. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you all for being here today on this special, amazing celebration and learning morning that we have ahead of us. I'm Nathan Hiller. I'm Executive Director at the Center for Leadership and a professor in the College of Business. And I'll just give you a tiny bit of history of why we are here today as part of the leadership lectures before we focus on our special guest. The leadership lectures were established in 2011 and to date have brought almost 50 distinguished and world-renowned speakers to FIU and our entire community. Today is a particularly special day as FIU hosts and celebrates one of its own, Professor Dr. Modesto Mitch Maidique. Before I make a few special introductions, just by a show of hands, I'd like to get a sense of who is in the room today. I see all kinds of faces from all different age groups and everything and anything in between. How many undergraduate students do we have here? Could you raise your hands? Awesome, welcome, awesome. Graduate students? Great, welcome, awesome. Staff, former staff or current staff at FIU? Amazing, amazing. And members, faculty. Let me, show of hands, faculty. Wow, wow. And members of the community, which we all are. Welcome, welcome. I mean, I love this because we have, this is very typical in that we have people from all different sub-communities within our broader FIU community. In particular, I'd like to recognize FIU's 6th president, Dr. Kenneth Jessel. Welcome. And FIU's provost, Dr. Elizabeth Behar. We have many vice presidents and deans. Could you please just wave? Give us a little bit of a wave. Welcome, welcome. Thank you. Mitch's son, Mark. One of our Center for Leadership board members, Holly Prince. Holly, thank you for being here. And faculty from all over, in particular from Mitch's home college, the College of Business. We can give a clap for that. One of the most respected and admired members and leaders of the community, of the Cuban community, Diego Suarez. And former publisher of the Miami Herald and chair of the Children's Movement of Florida, Dave Lawrence. And I'd now like to introduce Dr. Elizabeth Behar, FIU's Provost, Executive Vice President, and Chief Operating Officer. Dr. Behar provides leadership oversight and strategic direction for FIU's 56,000 students, 2,000 faculty, and 11 colleges and 30 institutes. Dr. Behar.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. It is an absolute pleasure to welcome you to today's session of the Leadership Lecture Series with Dr. Modesto Maidique. True leadership is not just about titles and positions. It is about vision, it is about resilience, and the ability to inspire others to achieve greatness. Today, we have the honor of hearing from an exceptional leader whose journey embodies these very qualities. President Emeritus Modesto Maidique, or Mitch, as we all know him, has built a remarkable career and an extraordinary legacy for Florida International University and the greater South Florida community. Under his leadership, FIU tripled in size and our student population grew to over 40,000, becoming at that time one of the largest universities in the United States. Our physical footprint grew from about 2 million gross square feet in 1987 to almost 7 million gross square feet today. The university, under his leadership, added 22 new doctoral programs. Think about that impact. FIU established the School of Architecture, the Robert Stempel College of Public Health and Social Work, our College of Law, and the Herbert Wertheim College of Medicine under his leadership. FIU added Division I football and simultaneously became the youngest university invited to Phi Beta Kappa, the nation's most prestigious honor society. The list of Mitch's accomplishments throughout his tenure as president at FIU is long, and we could certainly spend an entire morning and perhaps well into a late lunch recounting each and every one of them. The purpose of today's lecture is to hear directly from our esteemed leader as part of the Listening to Lead lectureship series. But I do want to say, in short, in summary, his unwavering dedication, vision, and hard work laid the foundation for the institution that we are today. And the ability for us to lead today is predicated on his foundational success. Today, we are a top 50 university, public. Today, we are a preeminent state research university. We are classified amongst the top universities in the nations as R1 doctoral universities. We can see that direct correlation to the strategies and the implementation under his leadership. Over the past 5 years, we have achieved more than $1 billion in research expenditures. We are the #1 ranked public university for the best student experience by the Wall Street Journal. That level of professionalism, that nuance in implementation and execution of all that we do. And we are certainly, providing an economic benefit not only to our students, but to our community as we are recognized in economic mobility. #1 by US News and World Report. All of these accolades can be traced back, not indirectly, directly, back to the course that Mitch set FIU on 3 decades ago. Mitch had a vision. Mitch believed in FIU and in FIU's ability to be preeminent long before preeminence was a thing, and long before FIU believed in itself as an institution of higher learning. Because of Mitch's efforts, FIU stands stronger, more inspired, and ready to carry forward the legacy that he built. Please join me in welcoming our friend, our colleague, the 4th president of Florida International University, and our president emeritus, Modesto Maidique.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth, for that really formidable introduction. As people like to say, my father would have loved it. My mother would have believed it. In 1988, I went in front of the chamber. There was about 500 people there. And I said to the chamber, this was 2 years after I had been appointed president of FIU, #1, we're going to have a College of Engineering. Okay, we're going to have a College of Architecture. Architecture. We're going to have a College of Law. We're going to have a medical school. People were laughing. And I told them we're going to have Division I athletics. We're going to have a football team. And we'll become a major research university. I almost got laughed out of the room. I came back 20 years later. In 2008, was still president of the university, and I said, College of Engineering, done. College of Architecture, done. College of Law, done. Medical school, done. 25,000 more students, done. Research One University, done. Hundreds of millions of dollars in research, done. The only thing I couldn't get done was I wanted to change the name. I wish I had it. I flew to Washington, and I had an Eastern Airlines, imagine how far back that was, and I made a list of 10 things that I wanted to do. 9 were accomplished. The only thing I couldn't do is change the name. By now, our name is so strong, we don't want to change it, but at that point, I thought University of Florida at Miami is, the most known city and the most known university. That'd be perfect for us, and like UCLA. And I went, the former chancellor, who, I don't know if he was a comedian or if he was, just a cruel man, but he said, oh, talk to Carl Carpenter, and he was chairman of Rules. And I talked to Representative Carpenter. I gave him this tremendous argument. The best universities in the country typically start with you. They're the states, Miami is there. And he said to me, you'll be long dead and gone, boy, before that ever happens. And then he said, however, if you want to be part of the University of Florida, be a little subsidiary in Miami, then, we can talk. So I think the chancellor sent me there with full knowledge that I was going to have my face blown away. One thing I'd like to add to the formidable introduction that Provost Behar, and it's something I've been trying to persuade President Jessel for some time to say, and either he doesn't like the line or doesn't think it's worthwhile. But anyway, Elizabeth said, and President Jessel has said a number of times, that we're now a top 50 public university, and that's correct. The secular is, we are the youngest of those 50. And what that speaks to is the trajectory. Doesn't speak to where we are. It's, if other universities are going like this, ours is going like this. Otherwise, how could we, in such a short time, be not only the 4,000 to 5,000 universities and colleges in the United States. The top are the 150 research universities. And we're not just one. We are somewhere in the middle of that extraordinary pack of 150 by the research that we do and by the research that we're doing. And the partnership with Baptist is only going to elevate us even more. We used to have, when I was at Harvard Business School, we had this, we would say, who came the furthest? One guy would say, I came from Texas. I came from California. I came from India. I came from China. And then we would give a prize, to that person. And my son, who has a flourishing, very active architecture practice, last night I went to sleep, he was still working on it, came 1,600 miles to be with me. And that means a lot. He wants a prize. The other, and thank you very much for recognizing everyone that you recognize, Elizabeth, but there is an unsung hero. We have a few unsung heroes in our history. One is Paul Sejas. He said, you're going to get, I didn't ask for a School of Architecture because I'd cut a deal with the president of the Florida Atlantic University. He got the architecture, I got. And Sejas said, no, architecture should be in Miami. I said, no, I have a deal. Don't do that to me, Paul. And sure enough, President Catanese got his bachelor's in architecture, and he was thrilled and happy. And I said, oh, thank God. He said, and oh, Mitch, we're giving you a master's in architecture. That's Paul Sejas. There are a few people like that. There's a long story in my chief assistant is here, and he gives me this, cut saying, don't tell too many stories. But there's a story around the law school, Mario Diaz-Balart. And there's also a story around the medical school, and the Speaker of the House at that time was Marco Rubio, and the big donor was Dr. Wertheim, Herbert Wertheim. But if truth be told, the father of that medical school. How many of you are involved in some way or aspiring to be part of the medical school? Thank you. The father, the man who made that possible, is here with us today. And he's Congressman David Rivera. That is the greatest achievement in my life history, and he made it possible. David. I want to talk to you today about listening to lead, but I'm really going to talk to you about listening to live, and I'll close on that at the end. Think of the damage that has been done by people not listening. Many of you have seen the Titanic, right? How many of you have seen the Titanic? Wow! I didn't realize it was that popular. Mark, even my son saw it? Yeah, wonderful. Twice? Oh, God. There is a moment in that film in which that ship, hundreds of millions of dollars of metal and other parts, is sailing, and someone comes and says, we have reports from other ships that they're icebergs. Captain says, we studied this course. We've studied it for years. There are no icebergs in this path. He didn't listen. You need to listen not only to those people that are close to you that you think are extraordinary, and some of those people are in my life and are friends of mine, but you need to listen to everybody, and I'll show you. So finally, man comes up and says, Captain, there's the iceberg. So he starts to, I don't know if you've ever, I was on the board of Carnival for about 20 years, Carnival Corporation, and we had a simulator. And if you're trying to get out of a bay and there's a block of stone or something, you say, the thing goes. And I'm saying, no. In front of the entire board, I crashed this $1 billion ship, into the rocks. It's not like a car, So he didn't listen. That cost hundreds of millions of dollars in today's dollars. And also in human life, more than 1,000 lives. And that was a phenomenal film, sad film, but a phenomenal film, the Titanic. It doesn't stop there. When they got ready to launch the Challenger, some memos came across saying it's too cold. We might crack the rubber that seals parts of the Challenger. You all know the story. I play for my students Ronald Reagan saying, this is a national tragedy. We feel deeply about what has happened. Again, not listening. In my own experience, I once was a consultant for the CEO of a company, and he said, Mitch, we're not sure about this hire. Could you come over and meet this person? It took me, I would say, on the outside, 5 minutes to realize that this person was a complete dud. And the way I realized that is that I never was able, like I'm looking at Ken right now. Ken, yeah, I've got some, never look at you straight in the eye. I said, this is a disaster. People who don't listen are nailing the boards on their own coffin. Well, today, we're going to try to help all of you become better listeners. But let me ask you, how many of you believe you're good listeners? That's pretty honest. That's about right. Research shows that, you didn't raise your hand, Ken. Oh, because you're very good. He has that kind, benevolent, interested, committed, connected. You'll tell him anything. Did you kill her? Yeah. So Uh, the research on that topic says that most people, the majority of people, 80% of people think they're good listeners. But the reality is that only 1 out of 7, when measured, is a good listener. And I would add to that, this is not research my own, 1 out of 100 or 1,000 is a master listener. And I've had experience with some of those people in my classes. Maybe I've had 500 students the last several years. 1 was a master listener. It's very rare to have a master listener. Very dangerous also, because you'll tell them everything that they want to know. And that can be very... So what I propose to do today is to help those that are good listeners become very good listeners. And those that are not good listeners, at least get you going in that direction. And I'm going to talk about something that I've trademarked, not officially trademarked it, but personally, called whole listening. Whole listening has 3.5 parts. Let me tell you what the half is, and then I'll go into the 3. Whenever you are in a listening situation, and sorry to pick on you, Ken, but you're right there in front of me. When I speak to Ken, I've known him for about 30 years. And I know who he is. I know what he's like. I know he is a man who is open to ideas. I know he is not judgmental. I know that he isn't biased. So if you enter a conversation with him, he already has many of the aces in his pocket, because he will listen to you. So listening is not only part of you as a listener, but it's part of who is the person that you are listening to. So the half is, I'm going to tell you some specific things that I'd like to suggest that you do, but there's a prelude to that. And the prelude is the relationship or lack of relationship that you may have, with a person. There are some people that I can say anything to. I can say, you are a complete bumbling idiot. I wouldn't say that, but I'm assuming. And they'd say, sure. I mean, here's Sumit Kundu. And I could say, Sumit, I think that last trip you took to India was a complete waste of time. And he would respond, well, I don't think it was. Because we have a relationship. So first of all, when you're in a situation that you're listening to him, you have that background. If you don't have that experience and you're somebody new, then it's important early on to communicate that you really are interested in the other person's views, no matter what they are, and you won't take offense, okay? I told that to a woman a few years ago, and I'm of Cuban origin, and I said, tell me the truth about Cubans. She says, well, they're late and they're loud. I said, okay, well, that's certainly, we can start to work with that, okay? So, now, whole listening, 3 parts, 1, 2, 3. The first one is listening to the words and ideas. That's sort of the minimal listening. If in your head you're getting the words, you're getting the ideas, you are at stage 1 of listening. And most people don't go beyond stage 1. The second is listening to the body language. Because if someone is saying, yes, I really agree with you, I'm with the program, man. That's an obvious extreme. Yeah, that's not. And the third, and maybe the most important contribution I can make to you guys, is listening to the feelings. Now, to listen to the feelings, you'd better have a pretty strong prelude so that the person is comfortable in sharing those feelings with you. So let's start with number 1. Distractions are a disaster when you're listening to people. If I'm listening to my son, I can't go, Dean, how are you? Huh? Oh, what was that, Mark? You have to listen and concentrate on that person. The best evidence I've seen of this is Bill Clinton. I went to a hoity-toity meeting. People were paying all kinds. That's when I had money. No, when I was president of the university and before I got a divorce. And I saw Bill Clinton. Then I noticed, not my type at all, I'm talking objectively, an extraordinarily attractive woman there. And I said, I'm going to watch this guy, see how he deals with her. We made a line, so about 30 of us. Everybody gave a few $1,000 for the candidacy of a congresswoman. And he said, hello, man, how are you, how are you, how are you? Then he finally got to this lady. And I swear he became Darth Vader. It was like a giant cape. No one else in the room, no one else on top, no one. He was completely concentrated on this lady. And that is the level one, level one of listening. And after, it was only 3 minutes. After he moved on, she was like, huh. That is step one. You listen to the words, you listen to the ideas. Step number 2 is body language. If someone is saying, yeah, I think what you're saying is really important, I'm really interested in, there's a message there that's stronger than the words. The body speaks. The body, also, if they're like this, they're probably not listening to you. If they're, for instance, yeah, what else do you have to say? Not a good sign. You want someone who is leaning towards you, who appears to be not this much. You don't want to be in their space, but you want to be leaning towards them as an expression of your interest, in them. The most important part of body language is the eyes. Remember, the eyes have it, about that. If you look at the eyes, and this person that I talked to you about never looked at my eyes. And then he proceeded, to give me one of the worst books I have ever read, which he said he had bought for me, especially because he thought it'd be educational. So that's another part. Then let me talk about how helpful this can be. And I'll tell you a couple of stories. When I was heading Analog Devices semiconductor company, now the largest analog integrated analog circuit company in the world, I was appointed on a Monday, and we were losing $3 million on $3 million of sales. And the question was, do we close it? And I said to the board of the people that had invested in us, Analog Devices, we were Analog Devices Semiconductor, give me 6 months, I can fix this. I don't know where I got the 6 months. I don't know why I said that. To this day, I ask myself, were you crazy? Were you just gutsy? What was it? But anyway, I'm hanging up the paintings in the room. I was made chief executive. And I walked down the hall. And my assistant, where is he? Where are you, Leo? Leo always says to me, you're wasting time. You're telling too many stories. Come on, let's get a move on. And I don't know what you would have said that day if he'd been my assistant then, but I run into a guy that sold parts, just sold mechanical parts to us. And he was able to chat with me briefly. And then he said, did you hear what happened at Sprague Semiconductor? Sprague Semiconductor was another semiconductor company 30 miles away from us. They were in Worcester, we were in Boston. And he said, they reorganized and they've taken analog integrated circuitry and made them, a subsidiary of the digital. He said, the people are really angry. And I said to myself, wait a second. We can design, we can market, we can do technical support, but we can't manufacture. Sprague couldn't design, couldn't market, couldn't give markets. The only thing they could do is manufacture. That was on a Tuesday. On a Wednesday, I'm in the line. Hi, Jody Lapham was their head manufacturing guy. And he was angry. I said, how about joining us? Long story short, on a Thursday, he agreed to come over. Then on Saturday, those of you that are familiar with Silicon Valley know that sometimes you start working for one company on Friday, another one on Saturday, Sunday a third one, and on a Monday you're in another plant, and on Tuesday you're back where you started. So, I said, my wife tells me, Jody Lapham was his name, is on the phone for you. I said, oh my God. They made him a counteroffer. They don't want to lose him. He said, Mitch, I have a question for you. I said, oh my God. He wants more money. He said, my top process engineering guy, and my top engineering guy would both like Bob Sang and John Mattia would like to come with me. Is it possible that you could hire them? I said, there is a God. There is a God, and you're looking out for me. And I hired the three of them. It didn't take me 6 months. 3 months, the yields of our integrated circuits went up from 2% to 25%. We started making money hand over fist. And why? Because I listened to that parts salesman. Give you a more recent, example. I'm walking out the Graham Center, and I hear, by the way, I am licensed to imitate Cubans. As someone who is a 10th generation, I don't know if there are any other 10th generation Cubans here, but I'm the real thing, okay? So I have a license to, I'm walking around and I hear this guy saying, Dr. Maidique, Dr. Maidique. That's a Cuban, okay? What is he? And he says, does the superintendent of public schools need to have a doctorate? I said, this guy is trimming hedges with another guy who's standing next to him. I'm saying, these people are worried about the leadership of the education system in Dade County? Who is this guy? So I said, no, we hired Rudy Crew, an outstanding man from New York. We'd prefer that they have a doctorate, but if they don't have a doctorate, an excellent manager, excellent leader, we could do it. So then I got curious and I said, let me ask you the question that I ask people all the time. What am I doing that I shouldn't be doing? And then the ancillary question is, what am I not doing that you should be doing? Like a classic Cuban, he says, it's easy. I said, okay. So this guy who, I also asked him, what do you do? He stuffed envelopes in the mailroom. So this guy who stuffs envelope in the mailroom is telling me, it's easy to tell you what you're doing wrong. So I said, great, that's listening. At no point did I in any way reflect other than that he was anybody except Ken Jessel, okay? So he says to me, you are spending money on advertising. You are spending money on newspapers. You are spending money on radio, sometimes even on TV. He said, that's not where you want to spend your money. You want to spend your money on marketing to the core. Right, it's the first time it was obvious what he was saying. He says, you have at that time it was 10,000, now it's 15. You have 10,000 people here. If you can convince them of how good we are, you have a fantastic marketing. I said, oh, that's great. Later I did go to I said, this guy he's an imposter. He's probably the president of another university or something. But I went to the mailroom, and there he was stuffing, envelopes. So basically, the answers to your biggest problems, your biggest challenges, might be right around you. So listen not only to 2 or 3 of the people that report to you, but listen broadly to a wide group of people. Let me tell you the punchline here, which I haven't even gotten. I told him, Pedro, I got to run because I have a meeting. So I went to this meeting, and we had hired for $200,000 a New York marketing firm to advise us on how we could improve our marketing. And it was headed by William Higginbottom III, a British man who came to give us his presentation. And he said, the key to your improving, I'm not licensed for this, to your improving your marketing is marketing to the core. I said, God damn it, Pedro told me that. And he makes $15 an hour, Jesus. So that's an example of what you can gain from listening. The third aspect, so we have listening to words and ideas, listening to the body language. And by the way, when Pedro spoke, it would make us, Ken, you and I, feel overshadowed. He spoke with authority. You have to market to the core. So then the next thing that I want to tell you about is listening to the feelings. That's very difficult if you don't have any feelings, by the way. But I assume 99% of you in this room, have feelings. I was in a couple of years ago talking to a student, very good student, who was working on a complicated project, and she was as sharp as ever, and she was, right there with it. But I said to myself, there's something wrong with this picture. There's something wrong. What's going on? So I looked at her and I said, I want to use the word Mary. I'm going to use the name Mary because I don't want to. I said, Mary, what's wrong with you? She says, my supervisor is sexually harassing me. I said, okay, forget about the project. Let's talk about how did this happen? When did it happen? How many times has it happened? What is the nature of, and she proceeded to tell me the whole thing. I'm not going to tell you the rest of the story or anything that I did, but the man, was fired 2 weeks later. Next time I met with her, and the only reason I was able to tell that is because I listened to the feelings, not to the words. The words are good, she was telling me, well, but we should do this and change that in the project and what have you. So, summing up the three things, listen to a wide range of people. Not only, for instance, the person I listen most to where I live happens to be someone who lived in Boston a long time, who lived in Miami a long time, who was a Harvard professor, and who is interested in psychology and psychiatry like I am. So you're going to expect that they're going to give you a lot of ideas that make sense to you, but maybe if I talk to the parking attendant, in the place that I live, I might get a different idea. So listen for words and ideas, listen broadly. 2, don't just listen to the words, because sometimes the body language, like I'm really interested in this job. That's a very promising opportunity. Really? And then, this is the most difficult part. Try to listen to what the person you're talking to is feeling. If you can hit those 3, you're going to be a much better listener. You're going to be what I call a whole listener. And it's not just, I'm talking about leadership because that's what I specialize in, but it's also listening to lead. And listening not only to lead, but to live. Listen to your kids. Listen to your friends. Listen to your neighbors. Listen to people that have completely opposing points of views. And sometimes when you listen politically, that can get you in a big argument, but that's about the only area where I'd say be careful. So I hope that as a consequence of this discussion today, some of you who were good listeners are even better now because you see, maybe it's a little thing or another little thing. And some of you who are not good listeners have learned a fair amount. about listening. I think, frankly, if the world as a whole became, we estimate, based on some preliminary research on small corporations, that we lose somewhere between the gross national product of France and Germany because of poor listening throughout the world. This is extrapolating from a company. It's probably even more than that. But if you whole listen, your world and our world will become better. Thank you.
We will have some time for some questions. One of the things that I always can count on when you spend time with Dr. Maidique is that there will be stories. And there's a lot of juice to those stories, so thank you. Do you want to come maybe take a seat and we can have a chat for a few minutes? And,
thank you.
And then we will also take a few questions. Let me start with one question I'd like to hear a little bit about. So you had just arrived in Miami. Mm-hmm. I don't know how long you had been in Miami, or you just taken the job as president of FIU. And you were asked to consider the job of Secretary of Education. Can you tell us a little bit about that decision? And
certainly, that is one of the turning points in my life. I was driving down Brickell, and I got a call. It says, "Hi, this is Bob Tuttle, Director of Human Resources at the White House." I said, "This is a joke. What the hell is this guy talking about?" And I said, "Listen, I'm driving." Then all of a sudden, I see a car run into a post, and the man is hanging out with blood out of the. And I said, "I can't talk to you now." And then another car pulls up, guy in a white coat, doctor, okay. And I said, "Okay, I can't. The doctor can help. I can't." So I said, "Is this for real?" He said, "Yes." Jeb Bush and President Bush, Vice President Bush have asked that we talk to you about a job. I said, "I already have a good job." I mean, They said, "Well, you have been nominated by both of them and by the Secretary of Education to be the next Secretary of Education of the United States." Had that happened, I would have been the first member of Hispanic origin in the American cabinet. I immediately went to our chairman, to Alva Chapman, and told Alva, and Alva changed my life because, I mean, how could you turn down this opportunity to reduce my salary by a factor of 3? So Alva said to me, I remember the words as if Alva were right here. Alva is one of the people I most admire in the world, admired. It just depends on what the value of your word is. 11 words. Because when I was interviewed for the position of president, I was asked, "How long will you stay? Is this going to be another little thing in your..." I was a general partner at Hamburg & Quist, making $500,000 to $1 million a year. Why would I take this $95,000 job? So I listened to Alva, and I said, "Alva, lend me your phone." And he said, "So you have some privacy. Jim Batten's office is next door." Jim Batten was the chief operating executive for the Herald. You use that one. I called the White House, and I told him, "Listen, I'd like to withdraw for consideration." I'm not going to tell you exactly what he said. It was not G-rated. It's more R-rated. But he said, "Who the hell is Alva Chapman?" I said, "Well, he's our chairman. He helped me to see the light of the value of my word." So I told him, "I'm not interested." And he said, "Mitch, we have an insider. We don't want the insider. We're going to propose in 2 days to the president. We have someone who is another university president who's a Democrat. And you know how President Reagan feels about Democrats. So he says, I can't commit to you, but it's looking very, you really want to turn this thing down? I said, yes, sir, I do. Changed my life, similar to that parts salesman. Because I think if I hadn't talked to him and he hadn't told me that Jody Lapham, this absolutely top manufacturing guy, was available, maybe I couldn't have turned it around. I don't know. Maybe I could have, maybe not. So it was a turning point in my life.
We can take a few questions. I have one more question for you before we do.
Sure.
You know, one of the things that we know is who we are shows up in the way that we lead. It includes the experiences, our upbringing, some of our tendencies and things. And the best leaders understand who they are and how they can work with that to their advantage, how they can avoid certain disadvantages, and really make progress when they do so. Can you shed a little bit of light, sort of at your discretion, how you want to, around some of the story of your growing up and your coming to this country? Because I think it's incredibly powerful.
Sure.
On so many levels.
Well, the overall concept is this. You've all heard about going from rags to riches, right? Everybody's heard that? I went from riches to rags. My family was a powerful, wealthy family, sugarcane plantations. Actually, one of them was named Miami sugarcane plantation. My father was a senator. My uncle was the majority leader of the Cuban House of Representatives. We had penthouses in Varadero, mansions in the best parts of the city. And when I came to the United States, and also a name, I would go on a cocktail party and say my name, Mitch Maidique, and they'd say, are you related to the senator? I said, yes, I'm his only son. And they'd say, if you are half as smart as your father, you'll be a very smart man. That's half. Jeez. I mean, you know, so maybe I can aspire to be half. He was supposed to be a man who, similarly to Clinton, walked in a room and all the attention, you know, was focused on him. So for many, many years, my goal in life was to reestablish that position, to be recognized and to be well off, you know, in this country. And that drove me for a number of times, for many, many years. And I think I put my children second to that. So I was a B-level father and A-level achiever. You don't have to interview my son. He may think it was a B minus, I don't know. So, but I said to myself, to give them the kind of opportunities that I would have been able to give them had we still been. You know, my son went to Cornell, didn't cost him a dime. My daughter went to Duke, didn't cost her a dime. So I had the wherewithal to be able to educate them. But I wasn't there for every school play. I wasn't there for every basketball game. I wasn't there because I was with my third child. I've asked my wife in my tombstone to say, father of Anna, Mark, and FIU. So that at least gives you a feeling. I think it's a different point. I'm at a different point in my life now, but I don't know that I could build another FIU.
That story of being half as smart, I think, came around at some point again with your mother, didn't it?
Mm-hmm. Well, there were other stories, but they are R-rated with respect to my father. So imagine a panoply of halves, half this, half that, half that. So when my mother goes to the dentist, I'm 40 years old. I'm a professor at the Harvard Business School. And my mother, name is Mrs. Maidique, and
This is in Miami, right?
In Miami,
Yep.
yeah, and thank you. and the dentist says to her, are you related to Modesta Maidique? My mother says, yes, I'm the widow of the senator. Guys, it's a senator. I'm talking about the Harvard professor. Then I told my wife, looks like I finally, in some way, equaled my father. And my mother generously said, son, you outdid your father a long time ago. That was a critical point, in my life.
We have time for a few questions. I think we could sit here all day, but we'll only have a few. If you can, please come up to the mics that we have sitting here. And Jessica.
Hello. So, what's something you would do differently if you could do being FIU's president again?
I think I got part of the question. Did you get it all?
What would you do differently if you were
In
FIU?
my life or at FIU? Well, one of my dumbest mistakes was that I saw Eduardo Padron, who is a master salesman and marketeer, get millions and millions of dollars in a referendum for Miami-Dade College. And I said, he can do it, I can do it. I couldn't. We failed. I don't talk about that very much, but I think I wouldn't try that. Another dumb thing is I said, the Biscayne Bay campus is pretty much out of the way. It didn't even have one school. I moved hospitality to give it some life. But I said, that thing is worth several $100 million. Our endowment at the time was like $20 million. So I said, if I was able to sell that campus for $200-300 million, we would all of a sudden have one of the largest endowments, in the state. And that campus was given to us by Senator Gwen Margolis. The day after I floated that idea, what the hell are you doing selling my campus? Woo! And also, it's state land. I can't, as president of FIU, I can't sell state land. The money would go to the state if it was sold, and it'd be the state that would. So those are, two dumb things. In my private life, I think what I would do is spend more time with my children, because I think even if I took 20% of the time off FIU, we still would have achieved much of what we achieved. But I needed to overachieve, because a lot of people come here from Argentina, let's say, and they don't do well here, they go back. I can't go back to Cuba. There's no going back. It's only going forward.
Thank you. So on phase number one, my question is about phase one, listening. We've often heard the term goes in one ear and out the other. Mm-hmm. Are there perhaps degrees or quality measurements to just listening to the words and ideas versus perhaps, processing or reflecting or acting upon?
I think, and this gets me more into leadership, not just listening, one of the most important things you need to have as a leader and as a listener is respect for other people. As opposed to saying, this guy here washes the dishes, what can he or she, tell me? If you respect people and think that we're all human beings and that we all deserve respect, then it is less likely to go in one ear and out the other. It's more likely to stop. Also, there's another aspect to listening that I didn't mention. I'm glad you brought this up. Being able to listen has in part to do with your self-confidence. If you're my friend, so you wouldn't, but if you told me you're an ass, I would say, David, that's a very broad categorization. What is it that I do, or what is it that I fail to do that makes me an ass? And I've shown respect for your opinion, And I think that if you do that, there's less of a chance. And also, try to think I am so-and-so, and because I am and I have these abilities, I have self-confidence. Unfortunately, psychiatrists will tell you, and there's one very good one, you know, in the room, that self-confidence comes from your parents more than anything from your mother. I wish I had given you self-confidence, Mark, but it's your mother's unconditional love and my mother's unconditional love. If I went to my mother, or if you went to my mother and said, Mitch stole $1 million from a bank, she'd say, he's probably going to do better things at the bank. Then she said, then you tell him, Mrs. Maidique, it's actually, she passed away. So it's actually, you know, worse than that. There was a man, a burly man in front of the bank. As he went out, the man blocked him, and Mitch killed him. Said, why the hell did he block him? So that gives me, you know, great self-confidence. I hope that helps, David. There's maybe a more sophisticated way of addressing that.
Before we take, we can do 2 more questions, but I think just I want to preface this by saying I know that you have offered to continue the conversation with folks
Sure.
after, and,
Sure.
and we will have a reception, and so there might be a bit of a chance to greet some folks as well.
But go ahead,
So
young man.
if we don't get to your question, our apologies and thank you.
Hello, sir. I wanted to ask you for your advice. I'm a senior, and I'm working on my senior design project with a big team, and I'm sure anybody here...
Architecture?
No, IoT, Internet of Things.
Okay.
So we're designing a device, and I'm sure anybody here who's ever worked on a team can relate. There's someone on the team who's not pulling their weight. So personally, I feel like I'm doing a good job of listening to what everyone on the team needs or has to do, but there's that one person, really 2 people, who, if I'm being honest, it might be 3. But, right, I'm a one-man army. But, so what would you say is the best advice for having other people, getting them to listen?
Well, the first thing you have to recognize is as soon as you have a team of 5 or 6 people, there'll be at least one weak member of that team. And it behooves the other 4 or 5, depending whether it's 1 or 2, to carry them. That is just a fact of life. Because there is a normal distribution in anything that's human, or anything you know, around the world, there's short people, tall people, medium people, there'll be some weak members, you know, of the team. And what you have to do is treat them with respect, not humiliate them, not disregard them, because to the extent that you mistreat any member of the team, good ideas from the other members may not come forth. There's a concept that was developed by, and I really subscribe to it in the leadership world, which is called psychological safety by Amy Edmondson, you know, at Harvard. She was a colleague of mine when I was at the business school, at the Harvard Business School. And she believes that psychological safety is the key to creativity, to originality, and to innovation. So I would say you do the best you can with the rest, and don't discriminate or put down those members. It's a fact of life. It'll always be that way. Hope that helps.
Thank you.
You can take one more.
Dr. Maidique, I truly enjoyed all your stories,
Thank you.
listening to your stories, and listening about listening. I learned those 3 lessons today.
Thank you.
I spoke to you a little bit before you got up there, and I told you that I was here in 1972
I
with my
know.
high school band,
Ta-ta-ta-ta.
playing the trumpet, and we were
Trumpet
here
player.
for the inauguration of Primera Casa. My question is not a question, it's more of a prompt for another story. Where were you in 1972 during
What?
that opening? Where were you in 1972 when that opening happened?
1972, I was in my 2nd year as Vice President of Research and Development at Analog Devices Semiconductor, which we had started 2 years before. And we were in the process of firing our president because, where's the young man that spoke before? Because he was disrespectful to the two other founders. He was the president when he could. And we fired him that year, and the next year I became president and CEO of the company.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for a wonderful time conversing with us. I feel like we all got to know you a little bit better. And even though it seems simple, listening and listening to lead is the hard part is doing the simple things. Thank you all for being here today. Please join us for a reception outside. Have a wonderful rest of your day.